Welcome into another episode of Birds on the Farm. I'm not Sandy McMillan. I'm Josh Jacobs. We're from Dealing with the Cards. We all are on the same channel, though. Kareem, I'm so excited to be here with you today, man, for my Birds on the Farm debut. But obviously, you're the star of the show, and that's why we have a Q&A episode today for Kareem. You guys have submitted your questions on Twitter, Instagram, and you can submit them live in the chat as we're going through as well. We'll try to get to some viewer questions toward the end if we have time. If you really want a question to get answered, you can put a super chat in there. We'll definitely make sure we get those answered right, as quickly as possible. But Kareem, we got a fun breakdown today of draft-related questions, state of the farm system. But real quick, it's like Cardinals had a huge win over the Cubs last night. That's fun, right?
Yeah, a lot of 2-run home runs. Brendan Donovan, Nootbaar, Gorman. Like it was a fun game. Starting off the series with the W. Hopefully, next couple games we can at least take one and win the series against the Cubs. And yeah, really, I think the Cardinals are playing some good ball right now. And hopefully, as we get closer to the All-Star break, they can keep this stretch up and end on a positive note.
For sure. They're within striking distance of the NL Central lead right now, which is actually kind of wild to think about. But again, it is end of June, so a lot can change between now and then. But we do have the MLB draft that's right around the corner, a couple weeks away now. Kareem, you're Kareem Stradamus. You get the draft pick right every year. So we already got questions in the chat about who your draft pick's going to be. But first question we had on hand today was over on X of STL Cardinal Hen. The question was, if you were running the 2025 draft for the Cardinals, who would you personally draft between Arquette, Willits, Holiday, and Carlson? Alternatively, if you went the pitcher route, who would you draft between Anderson, Arnold, Henderson, and Doyle?
I think there's a prospect that isn't included in that group that I would also have in there, JoJo Parker. But let's start off just, talking about the guys that they mentioned, Arquette, Willits, Holiday, and Carlson. I think out of that group, my top player would be Billy Carlson. Carlson's gotten some comps to Mason Wynn. I think he's someone that is going to be a plus defender at shortstop. There's no questions of him sticking at that position. It's an absolute bazooka of an arm. He also pitched in high school, but he's not going to be a two-way player. He's going to be a shortstop in pro ball, but he still has that cannon that he can unleash at every time. Really fluid mover at the position, and offensively, I think he's got some really impressive tools. I think the bat speed really jumps to me. There are some concerns in terms of just the swing that I've heard about. Some scouts don't think that the swing projects into pro ball. It's a little bit steeper of a swing path, a very timing dependent load. And, with that, there could be some struggles against more advanced pitching. But at the same time, this is someone that's made a lot of contact, not only in high school ball, but when he's gone up against good competition in the circuit. Like I mentioned, the bat speed numbers are very good with him. So I think there's a potential for him to be a big offensive threat as well. It's not like he's just a defensive, minded player. Whereas when we went over some of the college players, a guy like Merrick Houston, not someone that's going to hit a ton, provide a ton of value offensively, but a good defender. I think Carlson has that offensive upside at the same time, while being the best defensive high school shortstop in this year's class. So I think there's a lot to like with a Billy Carlson.
Can I ask you about Carlson for a second? So when you're describing him, it feels to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, or like maybe make some adjustments to it, it feels very similar to how Mason Wynn might have been described coming out of high school. Again, not to say he's going to become Mason Wynn, but a guy with a cannon of an arm, athletic shortstop, defensive first, maybe could develop in a bat, technically a two-way guy, but isn't going to pitch. Is that like a fair way to think of him as a prospect? Again, not the end product of what Mason Wynn is today, but coming out of high school, what kind of player he is?
Yeah, I think both of them are very twitchy athletes. Like I talked about, the arm strength really jumps off, and scouts have compared Billy Carlson to a Mason Wynn. So I think it is a fair comparison. At this point in their careers, I think offensively, there's, some similar things, at Wynn and Carlson coming out of high school. I think, offensively, there were some concerns in there. So I think it does make sense as a comp for sure.
Okay. And so comparing him to like, so if is there anything specific? I mean, you obviously went through Carlson's skill set, but comparing him more to Arquette, like even Holiday, like I think a lot of people will be surprised that he's not your top guy of the high school bats or Willits. Like, what's the edge factor to Carlson over that group right there? And obviously, Arquette's not a high school bat.
I think it's just more tools to dream on. Comparing Billy Carlson to another high school shortstop like Eli Willits, I think Willits is a safer bet offensively, I would say. It's a buttery, smooth swing from the left side. Scouts are split on his ability to switch hit at the next level, but at the very least, I think he's going to be able to hit left-handed. And, he could end up just being a left-handed hitter at the next level. And much like Billy Carlson, he's a good athlete, doesn't have that rocket arm. So I don't think there's as much to dream on defensively, but I think that he's still going to be a plus at shortstop or center field. He has the athleticism to stick up the middle. But I don't think it's the same kind of impact potential. The bat speed numbers aren't on par with a Billy Carlson, but Willits is probably one of the youngest players in this year's class. I mean, he doesn't turn 18 until December. He reclassified from 2026, so still a very young player, and he's got the frame to potentially add a little bit more power. But in the present, I don't think the top end tools are as crazy as someone like a Billy Carlson. I don't think there's as much to dream on.
Yeah.
And then Ethan Holiday, I think he's the most polarizing player in this class. I mean, he's got 70 grade power potential, but there are some swing and miss concerns. We're talking about someone who posted a whiff rate over 50% on fastballs 91 plus, which, at the next level, he's going to see more velocity and, he's got a steeper swing. I think that pitchers are going to exploit, using the four seamer at the top of the zone, and he hasn't yet showed an ability to hit velocity. So there are some concerns in there, but the power potential, I mean, it's crazy. Like, you could understand why teams are so high on him, but there is more risk. And, if he doesn't make enough contact at the next level, I mean, the whole profile could flame out. So there's major risk there. And I don't think defensively there's enough in there versus someone like a Billy Carlson or an Eli Willits. So out of the high school guys, I would have Billy out of that group, because JoJo Parker we didn't even mention yet. I think we'll talk about him next episode more so, but I would have Carlson 1. I would have Eli Willits 2, and then Ethan Holiday 3.
Okay.
And Arquette, I'm not sure how to split up like the high school guys with the college guys. I think that after next episode, we're going to dive into the high school bats. I'll have a better idea of that. But I think I'd slide Ivar Arquette in at number 3 or potentially number 2. I think Billy Carlson would still be my number 1 guy out of that group, but JoJo Parker's up there too. And, we'll talk about him more next episode.
I like it. I know we got a lot of questions to cover. And again, if you've got questions in the chat that you really want fit in, feel free to do a super chat or something like that as well. But we'll try to get to those at the end if possible. Before we move on to the arm side of it, because there was the question about who would be your first ranked arm of that bunch. There are some questions coming in. I'll just group them together, but otherwise we'll probably wait for live questions till the end. But questions about why pick a high school player at number 5 if they're likely going to be far away, / like it's a shortstop profile. Is that confusing with Mason Wynn, JJ Weatherholt, stuff like that? So do you want to speak to those two really quickly before we move to the arm?
Yeah. So, I mean, this isn't the craziest college class at the top of the draft. There isn't last year we had JJ Weatherholt, Travis Bazzana, Braden Montgomery, Jack Caglione, Charlie Condon.
Loaded.
I mean, even when you get down to Christian Moore or Cam Smith, who's making waves at the major league level already, that was such a top end heavy, college bat class. Whereas this year, it's Iva Arquette, and then you're scrambling. Like it's a lot of mid to late first round talents as opposed to top first round talents. So I think it's just a stronger high school shortstop class, and it comes down to that. And I think we'll see a lot of high school shortstops picked in the top 10, top 15. And I'd also say college pitchers, it's a good class up top. Cade Anderson is one of the more complete pitchers in the past few years. When we're talking about someone that's got pretty solid stuff, but he's able to command his whole arsenal really well. The competitive locations on every pitch that he throws are not just good, they're elite. And it's hard to teach that, especially when you pair that with the kind of stuff he has. A Liam Doyle, best fastball in the class, really good splitter, working on some of the secondaries beyond the fastball and splitter. But I think the cutter has promise, and he'll mix in a sweeper and curveball as well. And then obviously Jamie Arnold, haven't talked about him yet, but entering this year, he was the top college arm in the class. I think that his stock has fallen a little bit. We went over this on the college pitcher episode, but his fastball results had taken a step down this year. And when we're assessing college pitchers, I think fastball quality is one of the most important variables. So seeing that step down a little bit from last year, nothing stood out too much from a shape standpoint. I think the shape was similar from last year, but the results were nowhere close to what it was last year. And among the first round college pitchers in this year's class, the results don't shake up with a Liam Doyle or a Cade Anderson or a Gage Wood, who all have some of the best fastballs in the class, but it's still a dynamic mid-80s sweeper. Out of all the top college pitchers, it might be the best pitch. And he has a kick changeup that he added this year that had less than 20% zone rate. So, I mean, he had some trouble commanding it, but the results on the offering were still ridiculous. So I think we're looking at 2+ secondary pitches. I think his fastball is still, from a shape perspective, I still think it has the potential to be a little bit above average, but it's not like a plus kind of pitch, So I think that, this draft strengths is going to come down to the high school shortstops and the college pitchers. And I think we're going to see a lot of those go in the first, 10 to 15 picks.
So you just broke down those college arms there. Out of Doyle, Anderson, Arnold, I'll say Hernandez because he's related to our next question. But out of those three, and I guess you could, if you prefer Hernandez over them, let us know. But who's the guy you're looking at in that group?
Again, I gotta group these players based on their demographics. I think we'll have a better idea again next episode when we go over all the high school players with someone that is actually scouting them. And I don't have access to all the data, so it's a little bit harder to just deep dive into the high school class. So I would say I have less conviction in my evaluations for those players. But as far as the college pitchers, the last episode that we did with Peyton, I had Liam Doyle as my number 1 ranked pitcher. I think I would still have him as number 1. I think the stuff is, out of all these guys up top, I think he has the best stuff. There are some questions about his ability to, lean on the fastball as much as he does, and that working out at the next level. But as the year went on, we saw the off speed secondary usage go up. We saw the fastball velocity sustain stronger than what he had shown at the start of the year. So I think those are good signs for him to end the season the way that he did. And I just think the stuff is tantalizing. I think when I look at a Liam Doyle, this is going to be someone that's inducing a ton of swings and misses. I think the control is there. It might not be up to par with a Cade Anderson, but I think it's serviceable. And I just think the overall package, I think it's a little bit more enticing than the rest of the arms. But as we went on with that episode, I think it's very close. You could go in any direction. You could convince me either way, whether it's Cade Anderson, Jamie Arnold, Liam Doyle. Talking a little bit about Anderson, who I would have number 2. This is someone who, fastball 20 inches of vert. So, quality fastball, 90 towards the end of the season, it averaged closer to 94 miles an hour. So I think that we can see that velocity start to creep up a little bit in pro ball, especially when you're considering the fact that he's got a slender, 6'2" frame. I think there's more velocity to gain there. Plus slider. It's a pitch that he added this year. He was heavy fastball curveball usage last year. And don't get me wrong, that curveball is still a weapon, high spin rates, low 80s pitch. But him adding that slider to go against lefties, it's been a game changer for him, and he still has a plus changeup. So we're looking at 4 potential plus pitches with Cade Anderson, very poised, has the command profile. So I think that package is obviously very enticing. I think the top end stuff is not quite at a level of a Liam Doyle, so that's why I have him number 2. But I think that it wouldn't shock me at all if Anderson's the first pitcher out of this group to be selected. And I mean, he could go first overall to the Nationals, to be honest. And then Jamie Arnold, we went over him a little bit, but sweeper is dynamite, mid 80s, 10 to 12 inches of horizontal. It's one of the best pitches, hands down, in the whole class. And from that release height that he throws from the wide, low release, it's just an absolute nightmare when he locates it to his glove side. And that's not just limited to left-handed bats. It performs exceptionally against righties too in the inner third. So very, very good pitch. Fastball results, like I said, have ticked down a little bit. And, he has that kick change that he worked on. I think we'll see him add a more consistent cutter in pro ball as well. His fastball getting more horizontal break or more arm side run, getting something off of it closer to 0 horizontal would be big. And, I think we've seen, a bunch of Cardinals pitchers in the organization as of late who have more, runny fastballs, whether it be a Bryson Motts or an Ishan Henderson, add cutters. So I think that Arnold is going to add a cutter in pro ball for sure. And I think that should alleviate some of the damage concerns on the four-seamer. But yeah, those 3 arms, I love them. I think that each 3 of those guys, I would be perfectly fine with the Cardinals selecting at that 5th overall spot. I think the Cardinals, out of that group, I think the Cardinals would love Cade Anderson and Jamie Arnold the most, just based on previous draft trends. But even if they were to surprise me and go with a Liam Doyle, I would love that pick.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of options there, and the top 5 seems as uncertain as any draft right now in terms of what direction our team's going to go in. So we'll see how that all plays out. One of the names that people do, I feel like most people don't expect to fall to the Cardinals at 5, but we got a question about what are the chances that this happens from C_Hoppy04 on X. He asked, is there anything in Seth Hernandez's profile that would result in him falling, or does it really all come down to the risk that comes with drafting a prep arm?
Yeah, I think it has more so to do with the fact that there hasn't been a single right-handed prep pitcher that's gone first overall. There's only been 3 in the whole history, and all of them have been lefties. It's just a scary. It's a scary demographic that teams don't love to take at the top of the draft. Seth Hernandez, very talented arm. I think that just pure talent alone, he's one of the most talented guys in this whole class. But when you're dealing with someone that's a high school pitcher, teams are going to be hesitant to take that early in the first round. So, especially when you pair that with some college pitchers who are a little bit more advanced, that might not be a huge tier drop down. I think, it would make sense for a lot of teams to opt that route as opposed to go, shoot for the stars with a Seth Hernandez who might take, 4 or 5 years to get to the major league level. I mean, the Cardinals, we just saw the Tink Hens experience unfold. And I mean, he's still at the AA level. He's dealt with some injury issues in the past. First couple of years, he was only going 2-3 innings. Like it's a big process. It's not like you wake up and this guy's going to help you at the major league level, right? It's going to take some time. So yeah, I think, balancing that, I would say, between just being a scary demographic, and one that is going to take a lot of time and work to be able to come to its fruition. I think those are probably the two reasons why we don't see high school pitchers go at the top of the class.
Yeah, I mean, even think of like a recent success story, and it's Jackson Jobe, third overall 20, but that was back in 2021. This year is finally kind of the year that it looked like it was going to come together, and it wasn't all that great. Now he's got Tommy John, and so you're right. There's a lot. I mean, not that every MLB draft pick has risk attached to it, right? A lot of them don't pan out to the way you'd want it to, but especially with those high school right-handed pitchers. So one last draft related question, and then there's a lot of really interesting topics on the farm system right now that I would love for us to jump into today. So from at Redbird Farmhand, big shout out there. He asked, who are some prep players that you are keeping an eye on in the second round? Which is important to note. Cardinals have 4 picks in the top 100 this year, which they've had 1 pick in the top 75 the last 2 years, I believe. I think they have the most picks in the top 100 of any NL Central team, which is kind of wild to think about too. So second and third rounds and comp rounds are going to matter a lot this year for the Cardinals.
Yeah. I keep plugging it, but next episode, we're going to deep dive into the high school prospects with a special guest. So, I mean, if you're interested in hearing about some of the top high school prospects and potential players that the Cardinals could target, not only at pick 5, but in the second round, the comp B pick, be sure to check out that episode. It should be a week from today, but we're still working out the day and time. But yeah, a couple guys that stand out to me that might be available with our second round pick. Firstly, outfielder Jaden Foskey. The data really stands out with him. He posted a 90% zone contact rate in the summer circuit, and it's not like the impact wasn't there either. His hard hit rate ranked near the top out of those players in the circuit as well. So the bat to ball skills and ability to drive the ball at such a young age already is very impressive. And, you know, if he were to slide into the second round, I think more than likely we're looking at a overslot bonus. I think he'll get closer to comp B money. So if the Cardinals want to save some money with their first pick or even their comp B pick and, you know, use that with their second round money allocation, I think that would make sense. And then second, I'd go with right-handed pitcher Landon Harmon. He's got the big starting pitcher frame, 6'5", 188. He's a good mover on the mound. The fastball is already sitting in the mid-90s, and it's got a distinct cut ride shape. You know, this is someone that's got elite spin traits. He's got a low 80s sweeper, upper 80s cutter slider hybrid, and a mid 80s changeup that he can turn around and show above average arm side run on, you know, to pair with the fastball that's more cut ride. So I think it's a solid tunnel. So I think those are two guys that stand out to me. But when we're talking about prep guys in the second round, more than likely you're going to have to save some bonus pool to be able to sign those guys. I don't think they're going to go for slot value at that pick, but there's always guys that fall in the draft and get those overslot bonuses where, you know, I think recently you look back at someone like a Joshua Baez that the Cardinals had. I think he went in the second round the year that they took Michael McGreevy in the first, and he went for a quite overslot bonus. So I think more than likely it'll take an overslot bonus to get some of these guys in the second round, but you're double dipping on, you know, some very talented players at that point. So I think it would make sense.
For sure. Well, like the chat's kind of saying, we've done a lot of drafts so far. I want to jump into the farm system side of things real quick. Want to thank a couple of sponsors or podcasts as always. And the first presenting sponsor of our podcast is the 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 All Boulevard in Olivet. They're open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards, and they have the newest selections of packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. Make sure you go check them out. Make sure you let them know that you heard about them through us. We know a lot of you already shop there already, and so it's super fun. So go check out 314. We also want to let you know about our partnership with Underdog Sports. The Deal on the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. You can use that promo code CARDS on the screen on Underdog to get the offer, the first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash and first free pick 'em. So, Kareem, you mentioned Joshua Baez, and we're about to get into the top prospect question here in a second. So, chat, if that's what you're waiting for, it's coming here soon. But first, we want to talk about maybe the hottest and at least like most like out of nowhere breakout prospect in the Cardinals system right now for at least the casual supporter. Maybe they've heard the name Joshua Baez before. Obviously, he was on a heater at High A Peoria. It's been awesome at AA so far. Springfield. VFN on X wanted to know, please comment on the possibility of Baez getting to AAA this season, along with what other top prospects might be moving up. So maybe let's keep this question contained to who could be moving up levels, and then we'll get to the people who could be making their major league debut with this next one.
Yeah. Now, first, I just want to talk about Joshua Baez for a second. Man, I was not expecting this. Entering the season, I didn't have Joshua Baez inside my top 30. I was aware that once he got over to Palm Beach, he spent some time at the development list at the end of last year. He had a strikeout rate of 37% in Peoria, and they just wanted to reset him, work on the swing, and he went over to the complex, and they worked on rebooting that swing. And once at the end of that season, he went back up to Palm Beach and helped them win the FSL title. And we started to see some of those, swing changes and improvements in terms of just the bat to ball. But I didn't make much of it. I thought that we'll see what happens next year. I mean, we're talking about him doing this in single A. I mean, I wasn't sure what to make of all that, but I was well aware that he spent some time on the development list and there were some swing changes in there. But yeah, he's been probably the most exciting player in the system this year, just due to the fact that I didn't expect him to all of a sudden blossom into a top 10 prospect in the org. And, he's always had, the tools. We're talking about a guy that has, thunderous raw power. He hit a ball 114 miles an hour for, one of his first home runs at Springfield. And I mean, the Cardinals don't have a ton of home runs, 114 plus miles an hour in the StatCast era. So we're talking about legitimate raw juice with the Joshua Baez. But I mean, the bat to ball skills, he struck out too much. Like I said, 37% in his stint in Peoria last year. It was a contact rate of just 63%, a lot of swing and miss against breaking stuff. It's just not what you want to see out of that player, right? Obviously, you can live with some of that when you have the power potential that he has, but it got to the point where if you're making contact 63% of the time in high A, that's only going to get worse once you get up to AA and AAA. And so Baez reset on the development list, made some swing changes. He flattened out his stroke to help make more low launch contact. He's not afraid to go the opposite field anymore. Earlier in his career, he felt very pull happy. He always wanted to maximize the power, but he's just letting, his raw abilities play. And I think that's helping him out a lot. Baez isn't someone that needs to go pull side to have power. He has that, the exit velocity and, bat speed to have power the other way. So I think just being able to flatten out the stroke, not afraid to go the opposite field anymore. I think that's been big for him. There's still some holes in his swing. It's not like he's gone. It's not like he's going to be a plus bat to ball guy now. I think it's closer to fringe average than what it was. He might have had like a 30 hit tool entering the season, and to get it to more of a passable around 45. I mean, that's a huge development, and he's not losing any sort of power to offset that either. Still has a cannon of an arm in right field where I think he could play well. Very good athlete as well. The stolen base totals ranked near the top in the Cardinals organization. So yeah, it's awesome to see a prospect finally hit their stride after, a few up and down seasons, where, entering the season, like I said, he wasn't even inside my top 30. And
Yeah.
that doesn't, that looks dumb now, but it's hard to really envision him taking that step up after what we had seen for, 2-3 years. So it's awesome. I'm not complaining about it at all. I
Yeah.
love to see this for Joshua Baez. He's a great guy. And I hope that, you know, as he keeps, climbing through the system, gets up to the AAA level, we can see him continue to find success. He's, I think the next time I update my list, I feel confident he'll be inside my top 10. It's just the tools are just too enticing for me to not
Yeah.
have him inside the top 10. And it's been awesome to watch him uh, improve the bat to ball skills this year. Contact rate up 10 percentage points, the strikeout rate down like 12, 13 percentage points. It's a night and day difference from what we had seen in the past. And
Yeah.
to pair with all the other exciting tools that he has, this could be a legit player at the next level.
Yeah. And I mean, this has been noted in the chat. You've brought this up with the patience with Baez, right? He's still 21 years old, right? Like Chase Davis is 23 and had multiple years of college experience. JJ Weatherholt's 22 and 3 years of college experience. Like this guy came right out of high school. And so I think it's okay if he just got to AA to give it some time, let it bake a little bit. But obviously, we're all excited and want to see some things from him. And so, like you said, the upside's super intriguing and would love to see him continue to make good on it. But for now, I'm just happy to see him mashing a AA and I'm cool with him being there. So we'll keep going here. Good old our friend over Thomas over at Redbird is asking top prospect most likely to make his debut this year. So Kareem, what is the top prospect in the Cardinals system you think will make their debut in 2025?
It's tough. I'm not sure entirely if there's going to be a guy that, Andre Granillo recently made his debut. I would still consider him a top prospect. He's a top 30 prospect for me, and I think most outlets have him in the top 30 as well. But I'm not sure, honestly. That's a really good question. I think potentially when we're looking at top 30 guys, Cesar Prieto comes to mind as someone that has yet to get that shot. He's still not on the 40-man roster, but as a utility bench piece, if the Cardinals, I know they just picked up Garrett Hampson, if they want to try out one of their own homegrown guys, it's a make it or break it kind of time for a Cesar Prieto. If he's not going to get that shot now, I'm not sure if he'll ever get that shot, to be honest. So I'd say Cesar Prieto as far as top 30, but inside the top 10, I think Quinn Matthews stands out the most.
Yeah.
We'll see what the Cardinals do at the trade deadline, whether it is, trading Eric Fetty or another pitcher, Miles Michaelis potentially, although we've seen some of the talk with him not exercising his no trade clause, which don't feel great about that. But yeah, I think Quinn Matthews most likely. I don't know. I can't say with conviction that he's going to be called up at some point this year. Obviously dealt with the shoulder injury at the start of the year. He's back now. He's still adjusting to AAA, pitching with the MLB ball, which, Rob Raines had a story recently about that, just the minor league transition to, the AAA ball. He also talked about Takora Roby in that article. But I would say Quinn Matthews for sure as far as top 10 guys. And I think there's an outside shot at JJ Weatherholt could get called up. But I think it's unlikely with how the Cardinals, lineup is constructed right now. I think it would take an injury and potentially them being in contention and wanting him to, really provide value down the stretch for me to see it coming to fruition, which I think it's unlikely, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not going to happen. Right. I think there's a chance something like that could happen. I just don't think it's likely.
Yeah, so with that, and to your point, like they're not going to do it if they don't think he's not going to force the issue, right? They would call up they would sign a free agent shortstop or second baseman before calling him up if they didn't think he was ready. But do you think there's a scenario where they're out of contention and they do the Mason Wynn type route where they bring him up in September, let him get his feet wet to go for April, and hoping that he's on the opening day roster the next year? Or do you think it's more so they're probably only going to go that route with a guy like him if they're in the race and think that he will help them get to the playoffs or make that push?
Yeah, potentially. Because, I mean, at that point, you're not dealing with losing service time. I think
Yeah.
Weatherholt is a lock to play pretty early in 2026. So I mean, if they want to start the clock early, I don't think there is a problem with that necessarily.
Yeah, he still
But
qualifies for the prospect promotion thing. The way they timed the Mason Win one, I think it's like under 115 at bats or something like that for to qualify for that. So it would be okay to be in September, and they wouldn't affect, like you said, service time or the prospect promotion thing if he would win Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's a possibility, but when we're looking at how this team is constructed right now, where would he play?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't know.
You're struggling to get Nolan Gorman reps, right?
Yeah.
So
I honestly kind of think the only realistic, or like I shouldn't say the only, but the most realistic route, if something happened to Mason Wynn, because I could see them being like, okay, JJ, if again, this is if he's ready, but they maybe would feel better about him playing shortstop than Thomas Ajacey and Brendan Donovan. But even then, it feels kind of like a stretch.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's likely, but I don't want to sit here and rule it out because I mean, JJ is a special player, and I think we should see him at the AAA level at least sometime soon in the next month or two, I would say. And if he continues to just obliterate minor league baseball the way that he's doing right now, it's hard to not at least, see what it's like at the end of the year, get him some experience at the level so he can make some sort of adjustments heading into the season, because I do think he's going to be a major contributor next year for the Cardinals.
I know we got a few more questions, but I think a lot of people are really like have opinions on the JJ Weatherholt side of things and want to see him soon. And I get all that. And then you do have some people that are concerned about rushing guys, right? Where it's like you saw what happened to Jordan Walker. You saw what happened to Dylan Carlson, which I don't even know if I'd say Dylan Carlson was rushed at all, but you've seen guys that top 15-ish prospects in all baseball, top 20, and then don't pan out. Do you have a different level of confidence with JJ, like in the near future being ready? I mean, because we're talking about a guy who would be, if he came up this year, it's a little over a year removed from being drafted, being at the major league level, which that wasn't Jordan Walker or Dylan Carlson, right? They had even more time to bake. What potentially gives you the confidence that he could be an impact guy early next year when we've seen that stuff not play out in the past for other guys?
Yeah, I think with the JJ Weatherholt, we're looking at a completely different skill set. Weatherholt, what stands out to me most about him is just his pitch recognition and ability to just stay within his zone and not expand. Like Josh, there are a lot of guys that just have passive approaches at the plate. You look at someone like a Lars Nootbaar. I know he's trying to figure out his approach right now, but he's someone that isn't going to swing inside the zone much. Weatherholt, it's special pitch recognition. He's going to swing inside the zone. He's not going to expand. And I think that gives me more confidence in him, working out at the next level. Because, I mean, it's hard to teach that. And some of his other skills, he impacts the ball a lot. We're not talking about someone that's going to hit for a crazy number of home runs just due to, his sprays. This is someone that more of a flatter stroke, more line drives, and hits the opposite field as opposed to, pull side power. But there is plenty of impact when we're just talking about the raw exit velocities, right? And, the bat to ball skills are elite as well. Yeah. I just think when we're comparing a JJ Weatherholt with a Jordan Walker, for example, Walker, we knew he had the, thunderous raw power, right? But it wasn't a grade A approach at the plate in the minor leagues. It was good, not great contact rates. I just think the skill set that JJ Weatherholt has right now is more conducive to success at the major league level, or at least him holding his own. Because I think he's going to be someone at the very least who is going to draw his walks and not going to strike out. And I think there's a safe floor with that.
Yeah. You love to see it. And again, like I think it's the most underrated part of his game, and it's always been a part of it. But the opposite field power he has already too is kind of wild to me. And it's just like, what kind of hitter could he grow into? I'm not talking like a 30, 35 home run bat there. If you've got a guy with that kind of elite in zone contact, doesn't chase like at anything bad, like he stays within himself and then can crush pitches when they get him to him. You're talking about a guy who could be special and at least gives me confidence that there's a pretty high floor there with a guy like that. He also should profile well defensively. So a lot of excitement about JJ Weatherholt. Doesn't seem like too long before we see him in AAA. Might be a little bit longer before the major leagues, but we'll see. So a lot of people have been like kind of noticing this, and I think it's a good question over on X again. It's from 901_Cardinals. He said pitching seems to have a huge uptick in performance this year. Is this the beginning of the Bloom effect, in your opinion?
I think it is. And, this is dating back to last year before we had a Rob Serfolio in the fold. Shout out to that interview that you guys did. It was awesome. But yeah, I have noticed a difference, these past couple of years. I think we've seen less fastball usage across the whole minor leagues. I think that pitchers are doing a much better job at rounding out their arsenals and adding pitches to, help complement their arsenal. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the podcast, but, someone like an Eshawn Henderson or a Bryson Motts who've added cutters this year to complement with their more runny four-seamers, get something off that closer in velo. And, it's helped them a lot, especially against right-handed bats. And yeah, I've noticed that. I think that they have a clear plan for all of their pitchers in the organization and finding ways to best maximize their profiles. And I think, a couple of years ago, I don't think we saw that. I think it was very different. I think there was a less of a focus on each of these specific players. I think organization wide, they might have had some sort of strategies, but I think it was less on a player specific level. And I think that's unlocked a lot of developments in a ton of pitchers this year in the organization.
Is there someone specific that you could think of off the top of your head that's a good example of that shift in philosophy where it's like, yeah, like if they're a primary fastball guy and we're throwing too much, probably wouldn't be having much success right now, but are making the most of their secondaries and making maybe carving out more of a career for themselves or more potential for themselves?
I think the one guy that stands out to me the most is Bryson Motts. Last year, down season for Peoria. Motts is someone that's always had a good slider. And, at the low A level, that carried him, but he needed beyond that slider to have success in minor league ball. And, he got exploited in Peoria. Right-handed bats had close to a 900 OPS against him. This year, we're seeing him, add a cutter to his arsenal. He reworked his changeup to make it a viable offering against right-handed bats. And, his fastball is upticked a little bit as well. So I think he's one player that really stands out to me that has taken a lot of strides this year in his development. And I think part of that is having this new regime to help him out and, unlock his game and strengthen areas which were, weaker heading into the season.
Yeah, it's not. I don't know how much to make of this, but I think it's interesting. This seems like some of the names that are mentioned in this came over to Boston mostly post Bloom. But Baseball America the other day ranked the organizations that are throwing the most breaking balls right now. Red Sox are number 1, Cardinals are number 10, Guardians number 7. It's just there's a lot of like interesting parallels there, right? You got Serfolio, Bloom, the Cardinals are on that list now too. Maybe there's something going on there. It's a really good piece over there if people haven't checked it out already about kind of the increase in breaking balls. I'm thinking there might be a way to take advantage of some of the things you said there. So highly recommend that piece. So another question we've got on here. This is related to the catching depth in the organization, which is so fun to talk about right now. It's from Brent Gossett 4 over on X. What do you think the plan is with all the catching talent organizationally from top to bottom? This isn't like hoarding shortstops and moving them around the field. And I do think it's been said in the chat already a question about it of both Bernal and Crooks are Rule 5 eligible this year. And you've already got Pozo. Well, as much as I love Pozo, I don't know if I don't know if he's blocking those two. Pedro Baez and Ivan Herrera are already on the 40-man roster. But how do you envision this cracking out a little bit? How do you think they're going to manage all this catching talent between Crooks, Bernal, right now Rodriguez really far away, but still that's an intriguing piece. And you even have the Ryan Campos of the world, or like the Sammy Hernandez, like just a lot of guys.
Yeah, I think the organization's going to have to start deciding what to do with all these catching prospects. And players, whether it be Pozo at the major league level, Baez, Herrera. I don't know. Like, is it time to decide whether Herrera is going to stick at that position? Should he be getting time in the corner outfield, first base? I think these are the questions that they should be weighing in the offseason, because like you mentioned, both Jimmy Crooks and Leonardo Bernal must be protected in December, and they will be protected for the Rule 5 draft. So I think that, between those two, Pedro Baez, I know the organization loves Pedro Baez, so I think it'd be hard for them to part ways with him, but is that a possibility? Could they move on from him? Because defensively, he has been one of the better catchers in the game this year. Joel Pozo, he's been a fun story. I'm not sure there's much value in there that you could get back, but it's a cool story, him being able to find success right now. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of catchers that are going to be on your 40-man roster. And in terms of just optimizing the roster, I don't think that's the best way to go and handle your roster, especially when you have a Jimmy Crooks who probably will see some time next year at the major league level. Leonardo Bernal on the doorstep at AAA. I mean, if he keeps hitting the way that he's hitting right now, it's going to be tough to just have that guy in AAA next year, and you can't do anything because your catching position's loaded. So I think they have to start to decide what they think, how they feel about all these catchers. Is that moving a Pedro Baez? Is that moving Herrera to an outfield or a first base? And then Wilson Contreras is at first base. Does that mean Wilson Contreras gets moved? There's a lot of decisions that they're weighing, but I think we're getting to the point where we can't just say, it'll handle itself out. Let's not do anything. I think the organization should be thinking about this and finding a way to best optimize their roster with the players that they think are going to be valuable for them at that position long term.
Yeah, I'm curious if maybe Crooks could end up being a September call up for the reason of getting him around the major league staff, getting him around some of the major league pitchers to make that transition potentially happen, especially if they want Ivan to keep catching next year. So if they don't, you could see, okay, that makes sense. You have Pedro Baez and Jimmy Crooks can split that potentially if he's ready. But if Ivan's still in the mix, and they really don't want to lose Pedro Baez there, they got to start working Crooks in any way they can to get him comfortable. Because there might be some weird decisions going on there at some point here. So we'll see about that. The chat has been clamoring for Nathan Church, which is just funny because a year ago this time, no one would be clamoring for Nathan Church and Chase Davis. But the next question is very much related to Nathan Church. Trey W160 over on X said, is Nathan Church a viable everyday big league outfielder or another defensive first, fourth outfielder type? And maybe if you want to say just anything about Chase Davis or what you've seen this year, because he's flashed the glove. At the plate, seems like it's been a struggle, but just seems like Chase Davis has got a pretty good feel for center field now.
Yeah, first touching on Nathan Church, we were talking about how Joshua Baez surprised me. I think Nathan Church might be a bigger surprise. Between AA and AAA, slashing 352, 406, 570. K percentage of just 8.5%. The contact rate has jumped from 86.3% last year to 90.3%. Now, listen, I'll pump the brakes a little bit. I don't know if this offensive skill set is the most translatable thing to the next level. We've seen plenty of guys that have plus hit tools, plus bat to ball skills with not a ton of impact in their profile, get to the major league level, and they're just overwhelmed. And it's not like Nathan Church has a great approach. I'd say it's about average, maybe a little bit below average, and more of an aggressive kind of approach. So I think there will have to be enough damage on contact for him to be able to have some sort of, starting upside at the next level. But when you're putting up stats like that, it's hard to ignore. And it's not like he's lacking in terms of defense. I think he's probably the best defensive outfielder in the organization, aside from maybe Michael Ciani, and Victor Scott has really done exceptional things at the major league level this year as well. But as more of a defensive driven outfield option, he's got a cannon of an arm as well that he showed off in spring training. And I think Ryan Ludwig mentioned on a broadcast that he led the minor leagues in defensive runs saved for outfielders. No way to verify that, but I think that's I'll take his word on that. And it certainly shows up when you just watch him roam the outfield. It's not crazy speed. I think it's solid enough speed to play center field, but I think it's close to average in terms of center field speed. But he takes some great routes, and he's got a cannon of an arm. And with that, he's been one of the best defensive outfielders in minor league baseball for sure. But again, not sure what to make out of his offensive skill set. Let's see him find more success at triple. He hasn't played a ton of games at AAA, so let's see him do this for a longer period of time at the AAA level. But he's certainly forcing his way onto getting a look at the major league level when you're playing at that level offensively with the defense that he provides. And I know this is someone that the Cardinals organization loves as well. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he pushes someone like a Michael Ciani off the 40-man and ends up being used in a similar kind of role as, a fourth outfielder, defensive kind of option. And I wouldn't rule out him being a viable everyday big league outfielder like the question asks, but I think more so I trust the defense. We'll see if he's able to carry this success offensively to the major league level. I think there are some things with the profile that might not translate the best at the next level, but at the same time, we've seen major gains in terms of his bat to ball skills. I mean, jumping 86.3 to 90.3% this year in terms of contact rate. I mean, he's whiffing less than 10% of the time, and I think that'll play, even if the damage on contact numbers aren't anything great. So, yeah, that's what I have to say with Nathan Church. And quickly, just talking about Chase Davis. Last year, and frankly, for his whole professional career, we've seen him go through stretches where the power potential was there, but we've also seen stretches where he's not driving the ball at all. I think Davis is someone, when he extends out, he can hit the ball hard and to all fields. I don't think it's just exclusively pull side power, but he can struggle on pitches inside the zone. And I think part of that is also being exploited. So we just need to see the power potential more consistent for a Chase Davis, for him to hit that, ceiling as a outfield option in the near future for the Cardinals. But I have seen gains in terms of his ability to play center field, and I have more, I feel more confident in him being able to stick in center field. It's not like if Victor Scott is going to play the way that we know he's capable of, I don't think he's going to be, commanding that spot over him. But at the same time, I think I've seen enough this year for me to feel comfortable in him playing some center field at the next level too. So it comes down to just the power potential and him being able to, show it over long stretches as opposed to just, a week, a couple weeks. Because, I mean, last year we saw him, there were periods of time where the power potential was really there, but there were times where he was hitting a lot of ground balls and not getting to it either. So just seeing more consistency in the power is what I'll be watching with the Chase Davis.
Yeah, and it's interesting, when you think about these guys right now, usually a left-handed outfielder, great defense is something you love. But right now the Cardinals have a ton of left-handed bats right now. So, and honestly, it kind of it doesn't hurt their profile, but it makes it harder to figure out how do they fit in a way that Joshua Baez is really exciting because it's right-handed power in the outfield, something they really need right now. So one final question from X over here from Prince Leo 103. Who do you think is the highest upside arm in the system? So maybe not necessarily the best arm, but the guy that you're like, if they hit their ceiling, this guy could be legit.
Yeah. I've gone off the record and said it's Cooper Jerpy, dealing with Tommy John surgery right now. He's another guy that's Rule 5 eligible. Fingers crossed the Cardinals protect him, because I think he's got the chance to be a really, really special pitcher, starting pitcher down the road. His elbow it feels like from the day that he was brought into the system, it just wasn't 100%. He had reconstruction surgery, dealt with inflammation last year, and then this year, Tommy John. So hopefully with this surgery, his elbow is completely cleaned up and he can actually start to pitch for a consistent period of time. I just think when we're looking at a player that is able to induce as much whiffs as he does while also managing the contact, the walk rate is a little bit higher than you would want. But I just think the combination of strikeout ability and ability to manage contact, he's someone that isn't going to allow a lot of line drives. He's going to get the ball on the ground. When hitters do hit fly balls, they're not going pull side. It's just, it's a plus batted ball profile paired with, swing and miss. And I want to see him in the Cardinals organization. I don't think this is someone you can let go of and even, flirt with danger. I think you have to protect this guy in December. But aside from him, Chen-Wei Lin is another one that, stands out to me. Fastball velocity is, 96, 97 consistently. He's up to triple digits. Not the best shape. It's more of a runner. And it's got a little bit below average ride, especially for his slot. But at the same time, this is someone who's sitting upper 90s on his fastball, getting up to triple digits. His changeup is a true plus pitch. I think his gyro slider is probably a little bit above average, and he'll also work in a splitter. So I think the secondary arsenal is there, paired with a guy that's sitting in the high 90s on his fastball, up to triple digits. And I mean, it wouldn't shock me at all if the velocity ticks up a little bit more on average. I still think he's very, very lanky. So I would go with Jerpy as, my top left-handed, potential in the system, and then Chen-Wei Lin right-handed.
Yeah. So again, you've talked about Jerpy before, but maybe just because some people listen and they're like, I think there's a lot of people who don't get the hype with Cooper Jerpy. And I know you already talked about a little bit of that swing and miss and the inducing weak ground balls, but can you just speak a little bit more to his profile and why you, and there's other people too, it's not just Kareem over here who's like, Cooper Jerpy's awesome. Everyone's like, what are he's thinking about? Why there are people who are really high on the potential of Cooper Jerpy as a starting pitcher specifically.
Yeah, a lot of people watch him pitch and they might think he's just a loogie lefty, someone that's destined to be a bullpen piece, fastball sweeper, but it's an all-around skill set in terms of pitching. He's got a plus changeup that he, uses against right-handed hitters. And from that slot, it's hard to consistently command a changeup. We were talking about Jamie Arnold earlier. It's when you're thrown from that low of a slot, it can be difficult to just grasp and overall just command a changeup, but he's shown an advanced ability to use a changeup against righties. The fastball velocity was up a bit last year, closer to 91, 92. And from the approach angle that, he has from that low slot, it just works very well at the top of the zone. And, fingers crossed again. I think next year, the year after, we can see a post TJ velocity uptick, and, he's closer to 93, 94.
Woo!
But yeah, like also got a cutter on the episode that we had with Cooper Jerpy in the offseason. He talked about, working on that pitch with Jason Isringhausen. And I thought that pitch took a step up last year. I'd say it's close to average, but sure helps him a lot when we're talking about, again, a guy that's got a running four-seamer, having that cutter that's closer to a gyro, near that zero horizontal. And then he'll also mix in a sweeper, which I think projects as another plus pitch, and an absolute nightmare against lefties from that slot. Just the expected horizontal break from that wide release is crazy. So I like Jerpy more than the average person, I would say. I think that there hasn't been a lot of body of work so far in his pro career, but when he's been on the mound, he's impressed me a lot. And I just hope this is someone that the Cardinals organization, has a plan for, and someone that they keep in the organization, beyond this Rule 5 deadline, because I think, a team is going to make them pay if he's not added to the 40-man roster.
Yeah, and to your point again, like metrics and stats at the low levels, it's like take it and leave it. It's not a huge deal, but like this dude has a 35% K rate for the last 3 years. A walk K to walk ratio over 20%, or a percentage over 20%. He's in batting average allowed sits between 122 and 188. Like again, like it's some nasty stuff, and you just watch him pitch, and there's been I think he had 2 outings in a row last year where he had no hitter going. He got pulled from the game. Like when he's on, he's pretty stinking awesome. So, well, let's sure hope the Cardinals protect him in the Rule 5 draft this year, keep him, and see what happens. But oh man, he's a guy I'm worried that's either someone else is gonna nab him, or they're gonna pigeonhole him into a reliever, and that would suck. But we'll see. Anything else on the back end that you want to cover before we head out, or we covered a lot of ground today?
Yeah, I've mentioned it a couple times already, but be sure to check out next episode. We have a special guest lined up for that one, and we're deep diving into the high school players in this year's class. So we touched on it a little bit at the start of the episode, but a pitcher like Seth Hernandez, Corona High School, Billy Carlson, JoJo Parker. We didn't talk about him today, but he's someone I'm bullish about, and I think the Cardinals should consider him at that 5th overall spot if he's available there. Ethan Holiday, I don't see him slipping to 5, but hey, if he does, I think the Cardinals would probably pick him. So if you're curious about any of the high school players, be sure to check out next episode. But it was fun doing this Q&A, and I think we'll do this again sometime for sure.
Yeah, this is super fun. And also too, so next episode, Birds on the Farm, keep an eye out for that. But also we'll have the draft live stream here coming up soon on the MLB draft day. And it's the first 3 rounds are the first day now, right? Instead of just
Correct.
round 1.
Yeah, it's first 3 rounds, and the Cardinals have 4 picks. They have the comp beat before the 3rd round.
So it'd be very different than last year, where again, getting JJ at number 7 was hype, but then it was just like, okay, night's over. So this year there'll be a lot to talk about. It'll be really fun. So we're looking forward to that. We'll get you more information about that as we got details. But thanks for tuning in. As always, the Birds on the Farm. Sandy is out for the next few weeks because he's getting married. So congrats to Sandy. So I'll help Kareem hold down the fort as much as I can here. But Kareem, always appreciate your expertise on this. Appreciate you a lot, man. And we'll catch you guys next time on next episode.